And Mr Sunak said that he didn't want to influence other MPs, adding, of course, immediately to the speculation that he's going to skip the vote. Mr Sunak also wouldn't offer any extra help for those people struggling with higher mortgage payments.
So Louisa is at Downing Street this morning. Very good morning to you. A significant number of MPs expected to miss the vote today, Louisa. Just tell us what's going to happen and about your experience with the Prime Minister last night, because as I understand it, you'd sort of negotiated a period of time with him, but when you pressed him on this issue, it looked like he didn't want to answer the question.
Yeah, I mean, this is the Prime Minister's first interview since that extremely critical report came out into Boris Johnson, and there has been lots of speculation over the weekend about how he was going to react. Now, he decided to give us an interview last night, and that made me wonder whether he had something he wanted to say about Boris Johnson, whether he wanted to put that speculation to bed, get ahead of today's vote. He could perhaps have used that report as a chance to make a decisive break with Boris Johnson, reiterate the fact that he wants to do politics differently. In the end, he chose not to. He chose to say very little at all. In fact, 3 times he avoided the question about whether he is going to even take part in the vote today, increasing speculation that he is going to skip it, especially as we understand he also has a meeting with a world leader here at Downing Street today. So how significant is it if he skips it? Well, on the one hand, this vote is something of a formality. It is expected to pass. Even Boris Johnson is telling his supporters not to bother voting against it. There's also no obligation for MPs to attend. But certainly, if he does go ahead and abstain, inevitably there will be accusations that he has chickened out because he doesn't want to offend people on either side of his party or indeed the wider membership. And so when I pressed him on it, all I got was this very pre-prepared answer.
Well, this committee was established under the former Prime Minister. It commanded the confidence of the House at the time, and I'm sure that they've done their work thoroughly, and I respect them for that. Obviously, this is a matter for the House, not for the government, and that's why each and individual colleagues will make up their own mind when the time comes.
So are you not going to be there?
I said each and individual colleague will make up their own mind when the time comes. This is a matter for the House rather than for the government. It's an important distinction, and that's why I wouldn't want to influence anyone in advance of that vote.
But you promised professionalism, accountability, integrity at every level. Boris Johnson has undermined all of those. Do you not need to set an example and vote for him to be punished for that?
As I said, this is a matter for the House. It's not a government matter.
I mean, of course, that begs so many more questions, but he was being ushered away already at this point, and I was very conscious that Boris Johnson isn't the only thing that people care about. In fact, people quite often tell me that they are annoyed that there is so much focus on Boris Johnson. It allows the government to avoid other very important and significant issues, like the cost of living crisis getting worse. I can't let you go, Prime Minister, without asking you about something that our viewers are very concerned about, and that is mortgages. Worrying about paying their mortgages. Are you going to help them the way you help them with energy bills?
Yeah, so I know the anxiety that people will have about mortgage rate. That's why the first priority I set out at the beginning of the year was to halve inflation, because that's the best and most important way that we can keep costs and interest rates down for people. We've got a clear plan to do that. It is delivering. We need to stick to the plan.
It doesn't help people now, though,
but there is also support available for people. We have the mortgage guarantee scheme for first-time buyers, and we have the support for mortgage interest scheme, which is there to help people as well. But look, that's why my first priority is to halve inflation. One of my other priorities is to cut the waiting list, and that's why I've been spending time tonight with the incredible team at Watford General on their night shift. They're doing great work, and they're also getting the support from the government. Thanks very much indeed.
Well, he referred to it there, but if you noticed that the Prime Minister was at a hospital, that is because that is what he wanted to talk about last night, the fact that he had just put in a shift on the wards, perhaps wanting to show a bit of a contrast with the circus of the past week. He has been busy getting on with the job, and in fairness to him, it was not a fleeting visit. He was there for several hours. He didn't emerge until 10:30 last night. We was told he was getting really stuck in, including administering medicine and giving eye drops.
I've just spent an inspiring few hours with the incredible team here at Watford General Hospital. They're doing an amazing job looking after their parents. It was a privilege to see them in action and witness it firsthand, and help out a little bit where I could as well, giving out medicines, doing diagnostic tests and settling patients for the night.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm going to be honest with you. You alluded to it. We were invited to be there. It wasn't a chance meeting outside the hospital. We were told that we could turn up at a certain time and ask him questions. As I said, it did make me wonder whether he wanted to use the platform to say something significant. It turns out what he didn't say may well be more important.
Well, I think maybe next time, Louisa, you should take the thumb screws with you. And learn how to apply them.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because, he refused to answer the question about whether he's even going to be there. But Michael Gove yesterday morning was very clear, wasn't he, Louisa? I mean, member of his cabinet, the Levelling Up secretary, who basically said that he thought that the report had gone too far and he was going to abstain in the vote. So it's not a sort of party line on this, is it?
No, there is no party line. It's what's called a one-line whip, which means that there is no obligation for MPs to attend. There's no punishment if they don't do so, and it is a free vote, so they are not supposed to vote along party lines. It's interesting that Michael Gove said that while he agreed with a lot of the report, it's the punishment, this 90-day suspension if Boris Johnson's still been an MP, if he hadn't already resigned, and the fact that the committee recommended taking away his parliamentary pass, which would have allowed him to come here to Westminster for the rest of his life with this pass. That is the bit that Michael Gove reportedly objects to, and I'm hearing that that is also what some other MPs don't agree with, and the reason that they might choose to stay away today.
But of course, the severity of that sentence, if you like, was actually because he'd been goading the committee and insulting the committee, and they kind of took that as a sort of contempt of court, didn't they? It's a bit like if you're in the dock and you've just been convicted of something and you start shouting at the judge, you're going to get an extra few months on your sentence.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the biggest ironies of all this, that Boris Johnson, in fact, made things worse for himself. And it was bad enough already. The committee was already going to find him guilty of at least one contempt, but he made it worse by going at them, calling it a kangaroo court, saying it was not a fair process, it was a witch hunt, and that's what caused that punishment to go up from what we're hearing was potentially 10 to 20 days to 90 days.
All right, Louisa, thanks very much
Thanks, Louisa.
indeed. That is our main news.